Hello, everyone. I'm speaking with Brandon Hollar today. Brandon, would you like to introduce yourself and your field?
Yes, I'm Brandon Hollar. I am an electrician. I've been a project manager in the electrical field for 5 years now, and I spent 15 years in the field as a electrician.
All right. So, as you know, we're talking to people about how to get into new fields and what it might be like to get into the job and what would be like working in the job. So, first, starting off, as an electrical field engineer, project manager, what's usually the first step to getting into electrical work?
It's usually an apprenticeship program.
Hmm.
You can go to a technical college and get a degree that way, but most of your trades companies will put people through school, will put you through an apprenticeship, pay for your school, pay for your books, instead of having to pay out of pocket and go to a trades school and then go into the field yourself.
Nice. Okay. So from there, after you've gone to school, or while you're in school, what are some of the things you can expect to learn, kind of as the basics, or what?
You'll learn everything from start to finish. When you start, you'll be sweeping floors, organizing material. Most of the schooling is on the job training.
Mhm.
When I was in apprenticeship, we went, I think it was once every other week for 8 hours a day for 5 years.
Hmm.
Now, most apprenticeship programs are 4 year programs. Our program that we put our apprentices through is a 4 year program, and you go at night. You can do online classes or in person classes.
Oh, okay, that's good. So then, once you're finished with your apprenticeship, then you're stepping into what do we call that?
You would be a journeyman, is how we classify it, or in some trades, it would be called a mechanic.
Mhm.
You get a certification, and you can take that anywhere, and you're guaranteed a higher rate of pay based on those qualifications.
Okay. So as a journeyman, what's the difference between journeyman and apprentice, aside from, of course, the level of expertise or time that you spent in?
As an apprentice, you're there to learn. You're somebody's helper, basically. And but when you turn out, you become a teacher. Then you have to train an apprentice.
Mhm.
And your entire career as a journeyman electrician, you will be training other apprentices.
Okay. Is there a step above journeyman?
Or you can have foreman, general foreman, and those are just levels taking on bigger tasks, bigger projects.
Yeah, okay, I see. Most jobs, they're there to solve a problem, and clearly, with all the lights and the sound going through these mics, that is probably one of the problems that you solve, getting power from one thing to another. Or what else would you say that electrical field solves
Well,
as far as a
nowadays
problem?
everything seems to run off electricity.
Hmm.
So I specialize in the medical field, from CT scan machines, MRI machines, a lot of your imaging equipment, such as those. Lights, everything's going to LED now. So we're retrofitting a lot of light fixtures from fluorescent, the older technology, to LED. Car chargers are a big thing now. Data centers are a big thing now. A lot of your electrical companies now are really focusing on data centers.
Okay. To backtrack a little bit, how would one perhaps approach getting into the electrical field, or and also how did you approach getting into electric field?
I approached it by I had friends that were a little older than me that got into it, and when I graduated, I noticed that they had money in their pocket on the weekends and they had cars to drive, and I had no other avenues.
Mhm.
So that was the route I took. So we were in the union, IBW Local 613. So you can go sign up at your local unions, and they'll give you an aptitude test. And if you pass the aptitude test, they'll sign you up for school and they'll send you out and give you a job.
Okay, so this isn't just for everyone. It's you have to go through and make sure you are capable of understanding and handling the tasks that are going to be coming for the schooling and whatever follows.
Yes, math is a big thing. Trigonometry is a big thing to get in.
Mm.
And the union isn't the only avenue. That was the avenue that I went. I work for a non-union company now. So if you reach out to local trades companies, electrical companies, you can see if they're hiring, if they offer apprenticeship programs, and most of them do.
Okay,
So there's different avenues.
that's good. Makes it a little easier for people to just kind of come off the street, say, "Hey, I need a job. I want to learn something," to find a way into the door.
That's right. And for qualifications, if you're able to work with your hands, you've got some kind of mechanical skills with your hands. A lot of times we don't have no prerequisites other than common sense and a good work ethic.
So, in hiring, what kind of people are managers looking for? Like specifically, once you've gone past the aptitude and whatnot, what kind of people are the managers wanting to keep on board or to promote up even?
Somebody that's got a positive attitude, is willing to learn, is teachable,
Mhm.
um, and work ethic. Work ethic is number one. Positive work ethic is your basics, showing up on time. Those are number one. You shouldn't
Mhm.
even have to tell people those things. Being teachable, the willingness to want to learn, eagerness, taking initiative. When you see a problem, you jump in and solve it without somebody telling you that. I remember one of the first things I learned on a job was a journeyman had dropped a tool off a ladder, and I had quickly reached down, grabbed it, and handed it to him while other people were just standing there looking, waiting for somebody to tell them to pick it up. And,
Ah,
you know, just basic things.
all right, a little bit of foresight,
Yeah.
understanding of the situational awareness, I guess.
Yes. I'd say another thing that probably set a good example for me from day one for the guy I was working with was he said there was 5 young apprentices standing around. He says, "Somebody run and get a shovel." I literally ran to get the shovel, and I've been with him for 21 years now. So,
Did something right
yeah.
there. What is some of your best advice for someone looking to get into this field? Just first starting out, maybe some of the things that they need to think of as they're learning in the school, things they really need to pay attention to.
A good understanding of basic math, but also geometry, trigonometry. Those are things that we use every day. I find it funny when I hear people say, "Oh, I never used algebra," and we use it every day. Pythagorean's theorem, that's something we use every day when it comes to AC theory, DC theory, those are the theories behind electricity. You can't see electrons, so it's all based off of math. The math works out, but you can't see it.
At the start of an employee's career, what should they focus on? Things that they need to learn or things they want to really pick up as they're starting off?
I would say learning the terminologies.
Mhm.
Terminologies are big. And when you work from one person to the next, you go from one supply house to the next. A lot of people have a different nickname for different things. Learning all those terminologies is a big thing. That's usually the first thing we learn is all the terminologies from your different types of cables, your different types of wire, your wire sizes. It's a lot to take in when it comes to materials. Next thing we learn, a big thing in the electrical industry is bending conduit or pipe that we pull our wire through. It's a skill set, and it takes a little while to master. There's a lot of formulas we use when it comes to bending pipe to make it easier. There's a lot of code, so there's a lot of law we have to learn as well. We have to follow the National Electrical Code, which
Mhm.
is a law book, and we have to follow that to the T. And you could go to jail for not following the code book. So not only do we have to learn the math, the calculations for voltage, voltage drop, among other things, we have to learn the law, the National Electrical Code.
What could the environment be like as an employee working in a company, working with other people, working with some of the clients?
For the most part, it's still construction,
Hmm.
so it can be a roughneck culture in some cases. But we see everything, every industry in the world uses electricity. So we see everything from parking lots to hospitals to data centers to daycares to high-rise buildings, tenant spaces.
Hmm.
Of course, there's the residential side. I haven't done a lot of residential in my career. I did it on the side when I was younger for extra money. But going to people's houses, so you could be dealing with doctors, professionals, lawyers to grandma who lives at home and is a widow.
Hmm.
So it spans the whole spectrum.
Do you have a favorite field that you'd worked in or area that you'd worked in for electricity?
My favorite field is the medical because it's constantly challenging. There's
Okay.
a lot of specialized things you got to know. In commercial, we use something called MC cable. It's just a cable with multiple wires in it that we use to feed different devices, outlet switches, lights. But when you work in medical, you got to have medical grade MC cable, which basically just means it has a redundant ground.
Oh, okay.
So you have an extra ground to protect patients, staff.
Just in case.
That's
So
correct.
added layer of safety.
Yes.
I see.
When you're talking installing MRI machines, CT machines, cath labs, there's a lot of conduit because there's cables that have to be run back and forth from this machine. You've got, let's say, an MRI. You have the MRI room, which will have the gantry, the magnet. It's a giant magnet. Then you have a control room where the nurses or the technicians sit that look through a window. They control it with a computer. And then you have an equipment room, which is all the mechanical equipment that powers the MRI or CT machines as well.
Working with in the field, what are some of the hardships one might expect to encounter?
Working in the field, some of the hard things you may encounter is probably just dealing with different personalities.
Mm.
I've worked under, when I was an apprentice, I've worked under journeymen who would cuss you all day. They would love you like a brother, but that's just how they talk to people. And you've got to have thick skin to be able to deal with that. But then you go to somebody who's maybe more sensitive. You may be working with somebody who's cussing at you all day, and the next thing you know, you're talking to the doctor of a medical facility. So I would say dealing with different personality types, which probably is in every industry. Other difficulties is normal construction things, working in the heat, working in the cold, um, not using the best facilities for restrooms.
Mhm.
Things have gotten better, I think, as time goes on. Nowadays, safety is a big thing. So, learning how to get your job done safely. I think when I was coming up was kind of the end of the old school era where you just get it done however. And now safety is number one. And a lot of jobs you can't even bring a ladder on anymore. They call the jobs ladder last.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
because ladders are dangerous. On a ladder, you're supposed to maintain 3 points of contact at all time. Well, when you're trying to work with your hands, usually one hand is never good enough to get a job done. It takes two. Well, as soon as you take your second hand off the ladder, you only have 2 points of contact, one for each leg. So it kind of makes it impossible per OSHA standards to get a job done on a ladder by their standards.
Now, OSHA is what for those who don't know?
It's the
Uh,
government organization that regulates safety standards for all industries.
right. And I know there's multiple different levels of OSHA training, right? There's
Yes.
a 10
So,
hour.
yes, I took OSHA 10 when I was I think my first year of apprenticeship in my apprenticeship schooling. And then by the end of it, I took OSHA 30, which is a 30-hour course, which is involved CPR training, which that expires, I think, after 3 years. Um, yeah, you go through the whole gamut with OSHA 30, from everything from ladder safety to eye protection, hearing protection. So most of our apprentices get the OSHA training in school. I think once you've received OSHA 10, OSHA 30, that stays with
You
you.
just have it for life.
Yes.
Where do you see the future of the electrical field going? Changes, updates, or just kind of general trends? How do you see the future of it 5, 10 years from now?
I think the future of our industry is very bright.
Mm.
A lot of people are worried about new technologies, AI, but for tradesmen, I don't see that being a problem. I don't see AI being able to replace us. Um, I see things like electric vehicles. Those need electricity. We're putting them in everywhere. I mentioned data centers. Everybody's on their phones, on their computers. All of that runs through data centers. I see the pay rates in our industry continuing to go up, up, and up. I could see one day that tradesmen will be making more than doctors and lawyers, possibly. The future is very bright for our industry. We have a shortage of people coming into the field nowadays. I think college is a great thing, but I don't think it's for everybody. We do put people through a trade school, which is basically college accredited programs. Um, but I think we need tradesmen bad in this country. We need people working with their hands, from plumbers to electricians to pipe fitters to HVAC techs. I think that's something that we need, and it's not something that technology can easily replace.
How long has this shortage gone on, and how long do you think it might happen if the trend continues?
I think the shortage really came to a head during COVID.
Mm.
Um, Doing a lot of medical work, we were seen as essential workers. And I think that's really when it came to a head. I think it was already starting to get bad before that. And by bad, I mean a shortage of new people coming into the field. Um, I think working with your hands, hard work, construction, it's not very appeasing to a lot of people, and a lot of times. We've always said in the electrical industry that we're the first ones in and the last ones out on jobs. We're there from the start to the very finish. So I think as an electrician, you have to be very well rounded. You have to know a lot of other trades, like HVAC. We have to provide power to all the HVAC equipment, from condensing units to chillers. When it comes to plumbers, they have water heaters. Most of them nowadays are electric. Plumbers have recirculating pumps. So we work in all industries. Concrete. We If you have to run a new concrete in a new conduit in a hospital, that's got to be run under a concrete slab. We've got to saw cut it. We've got to put the conduit in the ground. Then we've got to pour the concrete back. So we got to know how to do concrete work. If we put a transformer in somewhere, typically we'll put it on a 4-inch pad. So we'll pour a concrete pad. So then we have to frame that pad with wood.
So a little
So
carpentry.
a little bit of carpentry involved. So I think to be an electrician, you have to be very well rounded. I also think, as far as being well rounded, we have to know the needs of our customers, whether it is a doctor, a physician, a surgeon, a lawyer, anything you're doing. If you're building a conference room, we've got to know. I get called in all the time. Well, what kind of lights do I need? There's schools and engineering schools you can go to for that, architectural schools you can go to for that. But a lot of what we learn is just trial and error, or from experience. A lot of what I know is from experience. If somebody asks, what kind of lights do I need? Well, in this situation, I've used these, or in this other situation, I've used these fixtures. Experience goes a long way. And experience, I don't think, is something that can be taught. It can only be learned.
So you're constantly picking something up from each of the jobs that you're learning, or every now and then you just stumble across something like, hey, and then just put a pin
Yes.
in that with your mind.
We're constantly learning as electricians.
Mm.
The technology is constantly changing. When I first came in, we were still using fluorescent, high pressure sodium, metal halide fixtures, and nowadays everything is LED. Compared to fluorescent, LED will use 1/3 of the power consumption.
That's good. Your general prognosis for the whole electrical field is that it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere.
No,
Also, the job opportunities you'd say are kind of abundant,
endless. I would say
endless,
endless.
endless.
Yes.
That's amazing.
When I was coming up, and still, if I tell somebody I'm an electrician, the first thing I hear is, "Hey, I need something at my house." So that was always a good thing that I thought about the electrical industry. You can pretty much make as much money as you want to, as much as you're willing to work. There's always side work to be done. Um, and most companies, as long as you're not taking directly from their clientele, they don't mind if you do a little side work on the side. And most of it is working for your friends, family, your church. Somebody's always in need of electrical work, whether it's hanging a ceiling fan, adding an outlet. Those are the basic necessities. But I don't see this industry going anywhere.
Good. Now, you as a project manager, can you speak on how one might move, kind of make that jump from worker, like on the ground in the field, to the office?
Yes, that's never a guaranteed path. It depends on the companies that you work for. Some companies only hire project managers that have been to college. As an electrician that's worked in the field, I think you get less respect if you didn't work in the field from the people that work under you. And I find it hard to lead somebody in an industry if you've never been in their shoes or done it. You can only learn so much out of a book without putting your hands on it and doing it yourself. My career path was working out in the field, managing projects, and the more I was given, the more I excelled and did good with it. Planning was a big thing. So if I'm looking at somebody who is a foreman for me, a journeyman, if I can see that they plan well, they do good with paperwork, they do good talking with customers, I could see a potential of moving them up. And in our company, I want to promote within. So when I see people that can manage what they do, what they have now well, then I'm more inclined to give them larger things to take on. I would like to see tradesmen be able to be promoted and go into the office, go into project management, even own their own business one day if that's what they aspire to do. I would encourage anybody if that's what they wanted to do. I would never hold anybody back from bettering themselves or their family.
That's good. Can we talk about the organization of maybe your typical electrical company or organization?
Typically, you have a owner or owners at the top.
Mm.
Most companies have multiple owners. Some are public companies. your larger ones that have stock, or you can buy stock into the company. Every company is really different. Some companies have estimators and project managers. Like in our company, I'm an estimator and a project manager.
Oh,
I estimate jobs and I manage the projects. I can see positives and negatives to both sides. I enjoy being able to estimate my own jobs and manage the projects as they go on because I put all the time and effort into it, estimating it. It's a lot less time I have to put into it once the job's been awarded and we have to manage it because I've basically looked over the entire job, the blueprints, as I was quoting the job. I could see a downfall to separating the estimating and the project managing um, as a link in communication. I could see that if you estimated a job, once you hand it off, there's no care anymore in the project. In our company, we have an owner, we have one owner, and then I would probably technically be the senior project manager. And then we have some lead foremen that are kind of transitioning into project managing. So they're still in the field
mhm.
half the time, but they're also dealing with the customers and quoting some of their own projects,
Okay.
smaller projects. Under that, we have foremen. Um, a foreman is over a project or a section of a project, depending on the size of your company. If you have a larger company, you would have a general foreman that's over several foremen. Under foreman, you would have just a regular journeyman. So that would be somebody who's gone through the apprenticeship, they're credentialed, they're a mechanic.
Right.
Um, so they would be under foreman. In our company, we're still a smaller company. We don't necessarily have just journeymen. All of our journeymen are in charge of a service truck and at least one apprentice. So going from the bottom to the top, you would have an unindentured apprentice, which that means they haven't started school yet. An indentured apprentice would be somebody who's started school, and that terminology mainly comes from the union. Indentured meaning you owe something back for them paying for your school. And when we were in the union, it was a 5-year apprenticeship program, and we owed them back by we had to agree to work for the union for 5 years after we graduated from our apprenticeship. That was our way of paying them back.
So 10-year commitment to this whole.
Correct.
Okay.
With our company now, we don't actually have a quote unquote indentured program, but I feel like we take very good care of our people and we have a very low turnover rate. I know a lot of people care about taking care of their customers, but I believe you take care of your employees first and they will take care of your customers.
So let's talk about exiting the field.
Mhm.
So many jobs have terminations. So what are some of the ways that one could get terminated while working? And then also let's talk about retirement and exiting, like
Yes.
planning for the future.
Yes. Ways you could get fired in this field. I'd say number one is disrespect.
Mm.
Disrespect from the top to the bottom. I was taught early on that you respect the lowest guy in the company just as much as you respect the highest guy in the company. You never know who you will be working for one day. The guy that signs on day one, has no experience as an apprentice, could one day be your boss.
Mm.
You may be working for them one day. I've seen it happen where they go through the apprenticeship program and then one of our customers, let's say a hospital, offers them a job and as a maintenance position, maybe a director of a hospital. Well, they go in to being a director of a hospital. Now they're hiring electricians. Now they're hiring you, the person that you trained. So always treat people with respect. Craftsmanship. Craftsmanship. If you put in poor craftsmanship and walk away from it and think that's okay, that can definitely get you fired. Not following the code book. Electricity is very dangerous. It can cause fires. And when you're talking commercial or residential, whatever it may be, there's people living, working in these buildings. If they were to catch fire, you could kill people. So poor craftsmanship could get you fired quick. We understand there's mistakes, but if you know or willingful in making a mistake and walked away from it, knowing what you have done, yes, that will get you fired quickly. As far as exiting the field and retirement, um, coming up in the union, there was like started out as a pension program, then it moved to like a Vanguard retirement program. I'm not sure. I've been out away from the union for 5 years, but with our company, we pay 11% of what our employees make towards their retirement. So let's just say you made $100 an hour. It's unrealistic, but let's say you made $100 an hour. For every hour, we're going to contribute $11 to your retirement. No match required. You can contribute more or as much as you want, but we're guaranteed to give you 11% towards your retirement. Our company, we give profit sharing. So if you're a foreman and you take responsibility of our project, you get a percentage as a bonus of the profit of that job. And to us, instead of giving away ownership of our company, that's a way of giving ownership of each project. So we like to think that every employee here owns a piece of their job. So they're also an owner of their project.
Right. That makes sense. When it comes to working hours, how can one expect the beginning, middle, end of their career to go? Like, what kind of schedule are they expecting?
Okay, working hours. So we live in the Atlanta area. Atlanta is known for its horrible traffic.
Absolutely.
So ever since I started 21 years ago, most jobs started at 6 in the morning and we get off at 2:30 in the afternoon. I have some crews, they start at 4 every morning. In Atlanta, the joke is Atlanta's an hour away from Atlanta. So typically it's an hour drive to work, at least an hour ride home in the afternoons. In most of construction, they start early to avoid traffic, to get in maybe before staff gets in if you're working in an occupied facility.
Hmm.
So typical, you're going to start early, but you're going to get off early. 6 to 2:30, I think, is the average. Sometimes 7 to 3:30. But when you get off at 2:30 every day, you got time to run errands, get home for your kids, be there with your family. So I think the working hours are good. I've never been a morning person. I was always a night owl, but I appreciated the early start.
So no nights and weekends.
Yes, there are nights and weekends. I know a lot of companies, some guys work 80 hours a week.
Mm.
With our company, we are mostly service based. So, like in hospitals, there's some, say, an operating room where you can only get in after hours on a Saturday when they're not performing surgeries.
Oh, that makes sense.
Now, I would say an average electrician that works with us probably works, there's 52 weekends in a year. They might work 10 to 15 weekends out of a year.
Do you have any parting words? Anything that you think that maybe someone coming in this field needs to know that we haven't covered?
I would say if you're interested in it, social media, if you use social media, maybe reach out to other people that are in the industry, see what they think about it, see who they work with. If you're interested, I would try to reach out to people you know and see and see if, what connections you can make that way.
Brendan Holler, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you and your insight onto the electrical field.
Thank you, Derek.